Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the Satine Phoenix tattoo controversy that just erupted. This is part of a playlist. I'm not going to recap everything that happened. I'm just going to keep going with the commentary. It's just to keep my videos a little tighter. Sorry to point you to a playlist. If you've been listening, you know what's going on. If you don't, just watch this in the playlist's order. You'll be all set. In addition to that, I need to do a little bit of admin here. So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about I did a video on specifically mass combat in Dungeons and Dragons, and I said, hey, this is how I did it in my battle for Strixhaven, and I put in a link. The link didn't work. One of my commenters said, hey, your link doesn't work, and then I hit the link, and I was like, it does work, but it worked because I was permissioned. That's fixed. And that link for Mass Combat is below, so if you wanted to see that from a couple weeks back, it's there. Sorry to put all that admin stuff in there. All right, let's go. Let's talk about this Satine Phoenix tattoo controversy in Dungeons & Dragons. Why did this thing blow up? I'm going to give you the reason. I think the main reason this blew up as big as it did, and there are no less than a half a dozen, maybe at this point a dozen, maybe 25 different YouTuber, D&D YouTuber commentators who have talked about this. On Twitter, there were easily 100 Dungeons & Dragons commentators who talked about this, and there maybe 400 or 500. Like this definitely caught on fire on Twitter, right? So why did this blow up the way it did? Two reasons. The first is the least important one. Sorry, I'm going to bury the lead on this one. I'll just talk about this real quick. Just so you're aware, Dungeons & Dragons has a real news cycle now, man. It is like, so first of all, every 3 months, a book drops. And when a book drops, every Dungeons & Dragons commentator out there talks about it. And half of the actually, I'd say 90% of the OSR whines about it, right? Like, that is an actual real news cycle. It is very significant. It's incredibly significant, actually. And it is very significant. And that happens on a drumbeat, right? And that's huge. The other thing is, there's all kinds of just communication coming out of the Wizards of the Coast. And so here's the kicker. We're in a fallow time right now. We're in a low news cycle, right? So we're waiting, and it is a very fallow news cycle. D&D Direct, lots of news there. That was huge. The last book drop really didn't count. Multiverse of Madness was that was a dumpster fire for D&D commentary news. Nobody cared about that book. They were like, hey, here's all the monsters you love with less. All their cool lore is gone and all their alignments are gone. Oh, and you got to buy 2 other books to get it. Like, Monsters and Multiverse is one of the worst Dungeons & Dragons books, D&D 5th books ever printed, in my opinion, as far as anyone being connected to it or digging it or being excited about it. So this hit in a very fallow, low-key time, and so people were like, what can we talk about as far as D&D news? And this just blew up. So that's one, right? Just the timing of it, right? That happens every now and then. Okay, next is tattoos. This thing is about tattoos. And guess what? Tattoos are far more important in American culture than ever before. And they are also far more important in Dungeons and Dragons than ever before. Satine Phoenix, Jameson Stone, really big on, they're really big into tattoo culture, right? And they're huge into D&D. And they're merging these together. This is not a small thing. So I'm going to put out my bias here before I say another word, because I'm going to say some things about the tattoo community. Just giving you where I'm coming from. One, I don't have a single tattoo, and I intend to never have a tattoo. I think the best thing you can say with your body is my body is unmarked, right? If I have a message to say, I'm going to put that on my hat. I'm going to put that on my shirt. Maybe I'm going to, get a scarf or whatever. But, my body is not going to get marked up with a bunch of images, right? And I feel this way, one, because I just feel that clear skin is a big deal, and and I preserve it, right? And then the other thing is, I just have 100 stories of people getting people getting tattoos that they highly regret, right? And having to either change them or mark them or, whatever. And so I'm not a huge fan of tattoos. However, I'm highly aware of what's happening. And this is not the case in America. And increasingly, like, I watch The Hill, right? The Hill has this week, they have a newscaster who's covered in tattoos, right? Like, all over her arms, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying with your mouth, but what are you saying with your arms? And like, what's this? And it's distracting, and like, but in my community, I see police officers with entire sleeves. Like, it's a huge thing, right? And so Jameson Stone was literally getting a tattoo of his character, right? And so this is an indelible mark, right? And so what people are doing is they're saying, listen, they're saying what I've been saying. They're saying unbound identity. They're saying this player character is so important to me, I want to carve it onto my body with a needle and ink, and I want this to be an indelible, permanent mark, right? And honestly, I'll say this flat out, right? Like, it's just the idea, sports, right? Like, the idea, like, we need to stop calling things games that are not games, right? I'm going to say it right now. Basketball, football, baseball, right? There are, like, do you understand that cities make laws and pay billions of dollars of actual government money to build stadiums, right? Like, the idea that sports are a game, it's part of our culture. These are life paths. Decisions are being connected to them. I don't really think American... Oh, and by the way, they absolutely... And like, oh, it's a game, right? There are thousands of families, right, who are, they go to bed without the water, paid, and without without enough food in the fridge because of rising gambling, right? Like, and I know this because they advertise and say, hey, maybe don't make sure your family goes hungry because you bet on football, baseball, and basketball, right? Like, these have massive impacts on our lives, and the idea that these are games is ludicrous. And I think this rise in these indelible people looking at their at their player character and saying, I need this to be a permanent mark on my body. I need, I don't want this ever be forgotten. When somebody digs me up in my grave, right, a month after, I want this character to be there, right? This is a level of dedication to Dungeons & Dragons that has never been seen before. And this captured the hearts and minds of every Dungeons & Dragons player and Dungeon Master who even came within proximity of it. And there was a lot of commentary on it because it's a major thing. It is just a huge, massive change in our culture. And people care about it. They very legitimately, very genuinely care about what's happening with Dungeons & Dragons, and are willing to literally mark the record of what they did in Dungeons & Dragons on their body, right? So that it's always there. That's a deep level of connection that doesn't come with a game, right? You're going to get stabbed 1,000 times with a small needle for a game. It's so clear that Dungeons & Dragons is so much more. This is just one of the pieces of evidence, but people still are just like, no, it's shoots and ladders. It's not. Oh, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Why do you think this blew up so hard? I'd love to hear your thoughts on your theory on why. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.